A new study from researchers at Columbia University is the first to offer quantitative evidence linking psychological stress to graying hair in people. And while it may seem intuitive that stress can accelerate graying, the researchers were surprised to discover that hair color can be restored when stress is eliminated, a finding that contrasts with a recent study in mice that suggested that stress-induced gray hairs are permanent. The study, published in the journal eLife, has broader significance than confirming age-old speculation about the effects of stress on hair color. The researcher says that understanding the mechanisms that allow old gray hairs to return to their young pigmented states could yield new clues about the malleability of human aging in general and how it is influenced by stress. Also, the researcher says that their data add to a growing body of evidence demonstrating that human aging is not a linear fixed biological process but may, at least in part, be halted or even temporarily reversed. Just as the rings in a tree trunk hold information about past decades in the life of a tree, our hair contains information about our biological history. When hairs are still under the skin as follicles, they are subject to the influence of stress hormones and other things happening in our mind and body. Once hairs grow out of the scalp, they harden and permanently crystallize these exposures into a stable form. Though people have long believed that psychological stress can accelerate gray hair, scientists have debated the connection due to the lack of sensitive methods that can precisely correlate times of stress with hair pigmentation at a single follicle level. The researchers developed a new method for capturing highly detailed images of tiny slices of human hairs to quantify the extent of pigment loss, that is, graying, in each of those slices. Each slice, about 1/20th of a millimeter wide, represents about an hour of hair growth. The researchers analyzed individual hairs from 14 volunteers. The results were compared with each volunteer's stress diary, in which individuals were asked to review their calendars and rate each week's level of stress. The investigators immediately noticed that some gray hairs naturally regained their original color, which had never been quantitatively documented. When hairs were aligned with stress diaries, striking associations between stress and hair graying were revealed, and in some cases, a reversal of graying with the lifting of stress. The researcher says that there was one individual who went on vacation, and 5 hairs on that person's head reverted back to dark during the vacation, synchronized in time. To better understand how stress causes gray hair, the researchers also measured levels of thousands of proteins in the hairs and how protein levels changed over the length of each hair. Changes in 300 proteins occurred when hair color changed, and the researchers developed a mathematical model that suggests stress-induced changes in mitochondria may explain how stress turns hair gray. We often hear that the mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell, but that is not the only role they play. Mitochondria are actually like little antennas inside the cell that respond to a number of different signals, including psychological stress. The mitochondria connection between stress and hair color differs from that discovered in a recent study of mice, which found that stress-induced graying was caused by an irreversible loss of stem cells in the hair follicle. The researchers says that their data showed that graying is reversible in people, which implicates a different mechanism. Mice have very different hair follicle biology, and this may be an instance where findings in mice don't translate well to people. Reducing stress in your life is a good goal, but it won't necessarily turn your hair to a normal color. Based on their mathematical modeling, the researchers think hair needs to reach a threshold before it turns gray. In middle age, when the hair is near that threshold because of biological age and other factors, stress will push it over the threshold and it transitions to gray. But reducing stress in a 70-year-old who has been gray for years will not darken their hair, or increasing stress in a 10-year-old will not be enough to tip their hair over the gray threshold.